How's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of Push Start to Listen, where we take a look back at the week in video game news, and boy, we have a ton to talk about. I think since I started doing the show, this is definitely the most that has dropped in a single week, outside of, like an event like E3. Boy, we have got so much to talk about. Crazy stuff happening with Sony this week, from acquisitions of studios to developers coming out against them, being, talking about how difficult they are to work with. We've just got so much to get into, so let's not wait any longer. So let's start things off with all the Sony news. We have a big chunk to get through. I'm going to be reading off some notes that I took because I don't really want to forget anything. Let's start with the devs that came out this week. This was a story that was kind of all over the place, but I believe Kotaku picked up on it first, and it was devs talking about how difficult it is to deal with Sony. Multiple indie devs who remained anonymous came out on Twitter this week discussing how difficult it is to work with Sony. They hardly feature your game, make it hard to find on the store, and charge extra to be featured, among a bevy of other issues. I will say that I'm fairly positive all platforms charge some type of fee to make your game featured, although Nintendo, they did say by default your game gets featured a little bit, because when it releases, it gets put into some, for lack of a better term, like playlists, like here's the new releases. If your game is on sale during the first week, like a lot of Steam games are, it gets featured in the sale list, stuff like that. But I will say that I think for a long time I was just used to the way the PlayStation Store was. The PS3 version, PS4 version, and I kind of had some problems with the way that the Xbox was laid out, but over time I think they really corrected that, and it could be a combination of just me getting used to it, and it's simple as that, but I really think that eventually it just became so much easier to navigate Xbox's store and to navigate Game Pass and just find what you were looking for. The PlayStation 5 store is an absolute mess. Like, it is horrible to navigate. It is god-awfully designed, to say the least. And one dev said, I challenge you to go and find my game without just typing it into the search bar. And I do not underestimate that for a second. I've been kind of in the mood to maybe pick up and play an RPG, so I went to the store on the PS5 the other day and just went to the RPG category, and there's no way that that was all of the RPGs that are available on the PlayStation 5 ecosystem, because they're also factoring games that were released on the PS4. No way that I saw everything, so I definitely see where they're going with. Another big thing that a lot of these devs said is that Sony is simply just does not care about indies. They are hyper-focused on big-budget, single-player experiences. That's not a lie. I mean, look at it. Days Gone, God of War, The Last of Us, Uncharted, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, Infamous, the list goes on and on. They've really transitioned to that being their niche. And that's fine, because Xbox isn't really doing that, Nintendo isn't really doing that. Of course, Nintendo has Zelda and Mario that are single-player experiences, but those are just kind of, that's it. Beyond that, they have some more minor titles that are single player, like whatever Yoshi game they come out with, a Kirby game, whatever. With Microsoft, Gears of War was always a single player campaign plus a multiplayer aspect, and you can also play the campaign co-op. Same goes for Halo. There's the huge multiplayer aspect to it. Now, Last of Us Part 2 did have Last of Us 1, had multiplayer, but it was kind of, I don't want to say an afterthought, because there are people that really, really enjoyed it, but when you think of Last of Us, you're going to think of it as a single-player experience, so I understand that. But Sony can't abandon just everything else that's out there. There are a lot of people that want to play something that isn't a big-budget, blockbuster movie-like single-player game. They want some variety. And so if they keep doing this, then they're going to kind of get pigeonholed into, this is what we do, this is all we do, and this is all we care about. So bouncing off that, Xbox has always been a really strong platform for indies, dating all the way back to the Xbox arcade days on the 360. However, it's seemingly Nintendo and the Switch, which has become a pure haven for indie titles. You can see a countless list every week of games that come out just for PC, usually Steam, but just for PC, and then they'll also come out on the Switch. Nintendo really does seem to care about indies. They sell a lot of units on the Switch. A lot of indie games, when you think indie game, you typically have a picture in your head of what that means, right? Whether it's like, oh, it's like a 2D action platformer kind of game, or it's just kind of a weird, quirky game, whatever it may mean to you, those people seemingly just really enjoy playing them on the Switch, and they're going to buy them on the Switch. They may own other platforms besides the Switch, but that seems to be their platform of choice, whether it's because you can play undocked and docked, there's the flexibility with it, who knows, but it seemingly that's kind of it. Sony is also earlier this year getting a lot of flack because of the information that came out during the Epic Games and Apple legal proceedings that showed how much Sony wants to charge to be a part of cross-platform online play. I think the thing that's happening here is sort of what happened with the PlayStation 2. They really just dominated with the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 3 came out, and it was just a bomb. They eventually came back and really righted the ship on the PlayStation 3, but it took a lot of hard work. The 360 just ran away with it. And then when the PS4, they ran away with it. The Xbox One struggled out the gate. There was, of course, all the controversy, like before the systems came out, with are you even going to be able to play used games on an Xbox, which was a key proponent of that year's E3 press conference for PlayStation. Obviously, everything kind of stayed status quo. Nothing really happened with that. But now on the PS5, they're up against Game Pass. Game Pass is an absolute juggernaut in gaming. It is the biggest value, the best value in all of video games, bar none. You cannot deny it. There have been arguments against it saying like, oh, the devs don't make enough money. Honestly, I've seen plenty of devs come out saying like, no, they paid us just fine. We're doing okay with being on Game Pass. So if Sony continues down this line and Xbox continues on with Game Pass, making that bigger and better, Nintendo continues to pump out high-quality Nintendo-specific IPs, as well as being this amazing bastion of indies, Sony could find themselves kind of losing favor with devs, losing favor with consumers, and they could end up, in last place. I feel like whatever console war still exists matters to Sony. I think that they still care about it for whatever reason, and I think that they care about it a little bit too much, and they're a little bit short-sighted with the business decisions that they make. They need to make some changes if they want to continue on and, I don't know, not be a joke on the internet and not be hated by the people that are making games so people have a reason to buy your system, So, now that we get all of that out of the way, let's move on to the other Sony news. Sony acquired Housemarque this week. That kind of makes sense. They made the PS5 exclusive Returnal. They also made games like Resogun, Nex Machina, and Super Stardust. They always seemed, at least for the past, ever since the PS4 came out, I guess, to be very closely associated with Sony. And so it certainly makes sense for Sony to go out and acquire them. Microsoft's on a buying spree. Sony's going to take what they can get. They obviously really like what Housemarque does. Housemarque finally made that transition from smaller scale games to a much larger scale game with Returnal. Obviously, Returnal has its problems, but it proved that they can do it. I think that's a game that they're going to learn a lot of lessons from, and then whatever they come out with next will show them hopefully learning from those lessons. They also acquired PC port specialist Nixxes, or Nixies. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. Nixxes. They worked mostly on porting a lot of Square Enix titles. Most recently, they did the PC port of Marvel Avengers. This makes complete and total sense. Sony is putting more and more PlayStation exclusives out onto the PC. Seemingly, I would imagine Ghost of Tsushima is out next. And who knows, they still haven't put Last of Us on PC, they haven't put God of War on PC, they haven't put Spider-Man on PC. Those are certain possibilities, so to go out and get somebody that knows how to do it and do it well, that makes sense. And then last, before we close out on the Sony section of today's video, this is unconfirmed, but something leaked out stating that it's happened, but it just hasn't been announced yet, and that's that Sony has acquired Bluepoint Studios. They specialize in remakes and remasters. They just did the Demon Souls PS5 remake, and they've worked with Sony in the past. They did the Nathan Drake collection. Again, another smart pickup for them. Sony definitely likes to do their remakes and remasters. The total remake, like the Final Fantasy thing, I think is going to become more popular as the years go on. People really want to kind of re-experience older games brought to life with new technology. I mean, even one that has a lot of work done to it, but isn't a total ground-up remake, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, I think's killing it right now. That's starting to make people kind of forget about all the issues with Mass Effect and building up anticipation for whatever EA decides to do next with the franchise. So yeah, it makes total sense. So yeah, some good and bad from Sony this week. I like Sony. I have a PS5. I just want them to stop being such a jerk to indie devs and allow them, the right to sell their game and without, charging them an arm and a leg and nickeling and diming them constantly, and make it so it's not so hard to find a game on your store. You want people to spend money. Why make it harder for people to spend money? So yeah, hopefully Sony figures it out. Next up on the list is that Remedy Entertainment, makers of Alan Wake and Control, have signed a deal with 505 Games for a multiplayer spin-off of Control. We don't really know exactly what it is yet, but it does say it will be a 4-player cooperative PvE, player versus environment game, with a code name of Condor. That seems like it could be a Left 4 Dead style game, and what are we seeing a ton of right now? Left 4 Dead style games. We just saw Back 4 Blood, which is being made by the Left 4 Dead people, Redfall that's coming from Arcane. It's seemingly the new genre to dump a bunch of resources into, and hopefully this comes out before everybody's burned out with it. Another piece of information has come out that they are going to further expand the Control franchise with a bigger budget Control game to be agreed in more detail in the future. The wording on that is a little weird. This is from the press release. I think people would like to see another game in the Control universe. Control was super cool. I didn't get a chance to finish it. My wife did. She loved it. I'd like to see them do more. I like the fact that Remedy takes chances with its storytelling. They do weird stuff. I'm a big fan of weird stuff. So yeah, anything Remedy does, I will certainly take a look at, and it's cool that they're getting some backing to do more with Control. The rumors keep coming out, though, that there's going to be another Alan Wake, so we'll see if they're, maybe they're working on 2 games at once now, or maybe they're working on 3 games at once right now, who knows, but cool to see with Remedy. Continuing the lines of partnership, Konami and Bloober team have signed a strategic cooperation agreement, whatever the hell that is. It will include jointly developing selected contents and exchanging know-how. This is coming from a release on the Bloober team website. If you're not familiar, Bloober team made the Blair Witch game. They also made that Medium game that just came out not too long ago. A lot of people are kind of reading between the lines here, saying that this must mean that they are working on a new Silent Hill, as Konami still owns the property. Who knows? Konami doesn't seem to be super interested in making a lot of video games, although they do have that Crime Site alpha out right now, so something new at least coming from them. Maybe this is their way of kind of kickstarting things. A lot of people seem to not like the Bloober team stuff. I couldn't tell you. I don't play horror games. My wife played the Blair Witch game. She said it was fine. I watched some of it. It seemed like it would frustrate the hell out of me to no end with its controls and just general, I don't know, just look and feel. It's just, first-person horror games and horror games in general just aren't for me. But if this kickstarts Konami, doing more with the IPs that they have, which they have quite a few, they have a lot that are very beloved. I would really like to see them just do something, but don't just throw it away and do a cash grab. Give your properties to somebody that wants to do something with them, that has passion for it, and will try their best to put out a good product. That's the decision I want to see Konami make. So I'm still making my way through the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. I finished Mass Effect 2 this past week and am now a few hours into Mass Effect 3, a game that I haven't played since the first 72 hours that it came out, because I rushed to beat that game as fast as I could because I was so excited, and then I wanted to go throw up in a garbage can. Regardless, I've got Mass Effect on the brain, so this story coming out this week certainly caught my attention, and that's that there is a Mass Effect spin-off for the DS that was planned, but obviously never came out. Mark Dara, who was a former BioWare employee, did an interview with MinMax and described the game as being a first-person experience, but more like Han Solo and less like Commander Shepard. It seemed like it would be more of a classic, space pirate kind of deal. He goes on to explain why it wasn't going to work, and it simply equates to EA didn't think it was going to make enough money, which is fair enough. I think that would have been super cool if that came out. Who cares if that made a ton of money or was even good. I think that idea of just like, let's take Mass Effect and do a spinoff. Okay, well, where do we want to do it? Let's do it on the DS. I think that alone would have been interesting enough to get a lot of hardcore Mass Effect fans to check it out. And I think that game would have sold a little bit more than you think. EA told Dara that they pegged it at about 50,000 copies. I think it would have sold way more than 50,000 copies. There are a lot of people that would have picked up a DS just to play that game. So yeah, it's just kind of a weird story that came out this week. Like I said, I got Mass Effect on the brain and figured I'd share it with all of you in case you missed it. But yeah, just I love hearing about stuff like that. I love hearing about canceled games, just ideas that were pitched that didn't come through, because sometimes you get to see like the pure creativity that comes out of some of these people that are so passionate about the franchise that they're working on, just to have their corporate overlords, crush it and send it away with a whip in their hands, I guess. Magic Legends is shutting down this October. A release came out from the team that makes the game. It says, and I quote, "It is with heavy hearts we announce Magic Legends will be shutting down on October 31st, 2021. All players who spent in-game or money in-game across Arc and Epic Game Store during the open beta will be refunded their full purchase amounts, etc., etc. Servers will remain open." But yeah, it says, "Our vision for Magic Legends missed the mark, but we are proud of what we achieved." Magic Legends, if you're not familiar with it, was a Diablo-style game set in the Magic the Gathering universe. It's the trading card game. It's really interesting, and one has to imagine if eventually the buck stops with Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast as to why no one has been able to successfully adapt Magic into anything besides the card game. I know there's an anime coming at some point. So I used to be not super into Magic, but I worked for a company that dealt with Magic. So by proxy, I learned a lot about the game. I played a fair amount of the game. And it's got years and years and years of backstory and lore and characters and all this stuff. And it seems just bizarre that nobody has been able to come along, take all of that and adapt it into anything that is remotely successful. It seems like it is like tailor-made for a video game, specifically tailor-made for a dungeon crawling Diablo-style game. This game didn't even make it out of, the beta test that they were doing. Not even making it a year. Just in the matter of months, they are tossing it aside. It seems, from what I can hear, it was just riddled with microtransactions. Maybe they felt like that was the only way they could make, the money back that they spent on making the game. I don't know, it just seems so weird that there's this property out here that is super, super successful in its lane. Why is it unable to just transition into anything else? Who knows? Maybe we could talk till we're blue in the face about it, but I would like to see somebody somewhere along the line do something with the Magic franchise, because there's some cool stuff in there. There's some neat ideas, some neat stories that I think would lend themselves well to some type of storytelling. I don't know if a television show is that, or a movie, or even the anime. I think it's got to be something along the lines of like a video game to really work, but I guess it's just going to take the right people working on it and the right idea, and sadly this one, which seemed like a winner, just wasn't it. We made it! We're done! There was a lot to get through, but man, some crazy stuff going on this week in video games. It's exciting, to be honest. Not everything is great, some of it's negative and sucks, but it's nice to just kind of get video games going again. Last year everything was on pause, and everybody's trying to figure out where we're all going to land now that maybe some people are returning to work, or they've decided to work full-time from home, and studios are getting their footing back underneath them. We've got some cool stuff coming out later this year. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of really interesting stuff coming out over the next couple of years. So yeah, it's nice to be energized about games again. In terms of what I've been playing lately, I don't always go into it, but like I said, I've been playing a lot of Mass Effect, still playing through more of Ratchet & Clank on PS5, about halfway through the game. I'm really, really loving it. I've just been kind of reserving that to that's my game to play on Saturday and Sunday mornings when I'm the only one awake in the house. I pop on my headphones and play it, and I've just been really enjoying playing it in kind of small chunks. Really, really good game. Mass Effect is, Mass Effect 2 is one of my all-time favorite games. I'm always going to enjoy playing that. But I haven't really been playing too much else. In terms of channel stuff, I did take a look at the new Lego Builder's Journey game on PC. There's a video up on the channel about that. Came out earlier this week. I think the game's really cool. If you have a PC that has a ray tracing graphics card in it, I would check it out. I would really check it out. That game is gorgeous. They did an amazing job with the visuals. In terms of other stuff that's going on, I want to do some more gameplay for the channel. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do, but I want to do something. So we'll be doing that. I'm knee-deep in the editing process of the next big push start video. So that will be coming over the next week and a half to 2 weeks probably. But yeah, other than that, not too much planned for the channel, aside obviously push start to listen every Saturday morning. But yeah, a lot of ideas going. I got a big notes folder with stuff to talk about. And it's gonna be a good summer. We're gonna have some cool stuff out on the channel, and I want to thank everybody for joining me, not just for this week and not for just for this show, but for everything that I do on the channel. It means so much to me. Thank you as always, and we'll be right back next Saturday morning with another episode of Push Start to Listen.